hearings. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi. He sits on the House Committees of Oversight and Intelligence. Congressman, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Allison.
What did you think when you heard President Trump say he would do it all over again? He would accept a meeting from a foreign country or a foreign adversary who claimed to have dirt on his political opponent.
And he kept bringing up Norway for some reason. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it was astonishing. I think that not only has Christopher Wray, his FBI director, said that if someone approaches you, especially a hostile foreign power, with information about your opponent or some other official, you should go to the FBI. But also folks like, Fox News contributor Andrew McCarthy, who came into the Intelligence Committee hearing yesterday and said the same. You don't take this information, you go to the FBI. And so this is something that I hope that all elected officials and candidates for office remember, which is, you should not meet with foreign powers and accept anything of value.
Have your Republican colleagues in the House expressed concern about this?
I think that privately they expressed concern. And by the way, one thing in his interview, he said that, congressmen do this all the time. I have not met a congressman, Democrat or Republican, who said that they've ever done this. And so I think this is really unusual.
Some of your colleagues have said that you all need to pass a law prohibiting this. Aren't there already laws prohibiting this?
There's a campaign finance law, which basically says you cannot accept something of value from a foreign power. And Special Counsel Mueller talked about this law within Volume 1 of the Mueller report in connection with the meeting at Trump Tower in the summer of 2016 when a Russian-connected individual, Russian intelligence services connected individual offered dirt. There are two issues that need to be clarified within the law. One is that opposition research is something, quote unquote, of value. And then secondly, you have to knowingly receive this information knowing that it's against the law. I think now, hopefully everybody knows it's against the law, so that particular issue will be put to bed. But certainly the first issue has to be addressed and clarified.
I want to ask you about what you did in the committee yesterday, where you voted to hold Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in contempt, as well as Attorney General Bill Barr, because of this citizenship question that they'd like to add to the 2020 census. So what does that mean that you held them in contempt in terms of next steps?
Well, so now the committee can actually go to the Bipartisan Legal Advisory Group. It's a committee that's set up through the House to actually go to House counsel and then initiate federal civil litigation proceedings to enforce the subpoena. Let me just put this in context because this is really important. This is one of 6 subpoenas that were bipartisan in nature, that were completely unrelated to Russia, issued by the Oversight Committee, for which the White House has produced no documents or testimony on anything. This is everything from security clearance issues to taxpayer-funded private travel for individuals in the Trump administration to, of course, the citizenship question on the census. So this is unfortunately part of a pattern of the White House believing that they're not accountable to anybody. And I strongly disagree with that notion, as do my colleagues.
I mean, I think that so many people would say, well, what's wrong with adding a citizenship question to the census? Don't we want to know how many people are here in the country? But then you have tried to talk about the backstory to who concocted this plan.
Correct,
and how this plan came to be, and that it may not be quite what it appears to be. And so quickly, can you just remind people of how this is linked to the architect of gerrymandering?
Yeah, there are recently unearthed documents from the architect of Republican gerrymandering, an individual named Mr. Hofeller, who said that by placing the citizenship question on the census, you depress the count of minorities, okay? And you advantage, through the gerrymandering process, Republicans. And this is absolutely unacceptable. This is not what the census was designed to do. And therefore, the Oversight Committee is trying to expose the wrongdoing and prevent it, hopefully, in the future.
I want to ask you if you've changed your tune on impeachment, given what you've heard from the president yesterday, say that he would do this all over again. among other things. I know that you have said that you weren't quite there yet. You believe you should methodically continue with investigations. Has anything changed in your mind?
As of right now, I'm in the same place in this sense, which is I believe that the conduct that was in the Mueller report, deeply disturbing, impeachable. Indeed, it was impeachable, but it's not enough to sustain a conviction, and we don't want to lead to a situation where we begin a proceeding, but he ends up claiming total exoneration, which would be, in my opinion, disastrous. Rather, we should now methodically go through the committee process and continue with the investigations. For instance, one specific thing that we're doing on the Oversight Committee and the Intelligence Committee is going after the financial documents, where I believe there's evidence that we have to gather. As a former prosecutor, I believe that you cannot begin the proceedings until you can sustain a conviction, but the evidence may be out there to do that. Let's go and gather it right now.
Well, George Conway, well-known constitutional attorney, as well as Kellyanne Conway's husband, of course, who's a top advisor to the president, disagrees with you. Here is what he and Neil Katyal just published in an op-ed yesterday. They say on Tuesday, President Trump filed a brief in the nation's second most important court that takes the position that Congress cannot investigate the president except possibly in impeachment proceedings. It's a spectacularly anti-constitutional brief, an invitation to commencing impeachment proceedings that, for reasons set out in the Mueller report, should have already commenced. In other words, there's new information, there's new action that triggers impeachment.
The Trump administration officials can say whatever they want about the law, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. The current law says that Congress has the full investigatory powers at its disposal, including issuing subpoenas for information, as well as being able to enforce it. And that's what we're seeing in wins in the court repeatedly. I expect that to continue, but we cannot stop the investigations. They have to continue, and we have to gather evidence that's out there of wrongdoing and expose it.
Okay, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, thank you.